Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters, the 12 tribes of Israel scattered all over the earth. Let me take this moment to say, welcome back. This is your Moray, Dr. Yeshu. And we just want to take this moment, my brothers and my sisters, to say how much we thank you. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you so much. Last week, my brothers and my sisters, I was very, very sick. There's a tree that blew a lot of pollens, and my sinus and all of this thing, it got erupted. And, you know, thing that is coming off the tree is like, it's almost like a sulfur. And I'm allergic to a lot of these different things, you know, certain kind of dust and, you know, and things like that. And so my brothers and my sisters, it made me sick. I was so sick. I could hardly talk. And so last Shabbat, Friday, and, you know, for the Shabbat meditation, I couldn't give the message. And the Shabbat morning, I couldn't give the message. I did talk a little bit and pray. And many of you have encouraged me so much, you know, and I tell you, I thank you, thank you, thank you. Many of you continue to subscribe and continue to like, and I really appreciate it so much, And so, you know, we're right in the middle of Passover, a celebration, you know, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is referred to as Pesach. Now, my brothers and my sisters, many people, you know, are worried because they want to keep these, you know, celebrations. They want to observe them, but they don't know how, or sometimes they're not in a convenient place. The setting is not very convenient. And I say, look, we're not going to be legalistic. This thing is something for us, it to be a blessing to us, not to be a curse. And, you know, many people who do not have their own homes and you're living with someone, you cannot go into people's place and start dismantling, taking things, throwing things out that you don't like, you know, so on. And the other group, you know, that celebrate, the other group, I'm not going to call a name, you know who they are, right? And for years, they brought in a lot of different traditions to it. A lot of different traditions they brought into it. You know, they even have a cup for Mary. You know, they have a glass of wine for Mary. You know, Mary has nothing to do with the Passover, apart from the fact that she was one of them who have to put the blood over the lintel in order not to suffer from death. You know, as the command was given to the Hebrew people when they were in bondage in Egypt. So, you know, but people bring in all kind of, you know, traditions. Right? Oh, we know that we have the plate, we have the cup, we have the menorah. If you notice, the menorah right behind me here, okay? And I have it on the screen, and I'm gonna try to see if I can turn it. I'm not sure this will turn, but I'm gonna try, so you could see it a little bit better. You know, it's not turning. But anyway, since it's not turning, I just let it stay and just talk. But we have the menorah, the lighting of the candle. You have the cup, you know, for the wine. You have the plate to put the bitter herbs and all that different things in it. Okay, so some of the places have six parts. We can put 6 different kind of, you know, herbal thing in it, and some you can also put, you know, the shank of the animal, the sheep. Remember, the meat was roasted. Okay, so you can't cook it. You have to roast it. Whatever meat you get, the lamb meat. Some people use goat meat to suffice. But the lamb meat, okay, if you get it, you got to make sure it's clean. Okay, make sure it is clean. All right, so, you know, if you don't have your own place, don't sweat it. You cannot go into somebody's place and dismantle it. Okay, all right. If you're by yourself, try to celebrate the best way you can. Have a meal on Passover. Read the story in Exodus. Okay, and during the week, during the Feast of Unleavened Bread week, you make sure that you try to stay away from leaven. Okay, and eat food that are not do not have leaven in it. Okay, and you know, celebrate and eat and enjoy yourself and share your testimony with others about what YAHUAH has done for you. You know, do those kind of things. All right? But we know that the celebration, you know, it reminds us of what happened there. With the blood was put over the door lintel, right? The death pass, you know. YAHUAH, right? That YAHUAH came in the form of his son, YAHUAH, and he gave his life for us. His blood was given for us. So we know that when we celebrate, we are celebrating knowing that YAHUAH has given his blood. So his blood washed our sins away when we come to him, when we repent and turn our lives over to him. All right? Good. So we know that the Passover, it commemorates, you know, the what we refer to as the emancipation of the Hebrew people, our ancestors, you know, from the slavery in ancient Egypt. So, and it's observed by avoiding leaven and highlighted by what some of the people, some of the other groups, they refer to it as the Seder meal. You know, they have a big meal, okay, and I mean, meal, a lot of food, a lot of good stuff, right? and the meal include 4 cups of wine. It includes eating matzah. Some people eat matzah. I make my own unleavened bread. Sometimes, very rarely, I use matzah, okay? But I make my own unleavened bread, and then the bitter herbs, you know. You go into the grocery store, you have parsley, you have, you know, water weed and different little things like that. And you have that little thing, radish and things like that. Cucumber, you know, scallion and all those things, you know. And those remind of the bitter times that the rough hardship that the Israelite people, our ancestors, suffer while they were down there in Egypt. Okay, and so our belief is rich. Our belief is rich with scriptural proof of what YAHUAH has done. Okay, and the understanding of the history. It's very essential, my brothers and my sisters, that we remember the history of what happened. You know, he called us out of Egypt, my brothers and my sisters. He called us out from bondage. You know, he sent his servant Moshe to come down there and to take us out of bondage, right? And so the basic breakdown and some of the most common food that we eat, you know, symbolize, you know, well, is as a reminder, you know, of why we celebrate this holiday. And you know, some people ask the question, why, what is Passover and how it is celebrated? And like I just share with you some of the things. And when it's Passover, well, it differs each year. We know that this year, which is 2024, it is celebrated from, April 22nd to the 30th. Okay? April and April 23rd is basically after nightfall. Like, we call it after sunset, we start celebrating. So basically we start, almost at 23rd. Right? Passover is celebrated, and we eat matzah, we eat unleavened bread, depends on your choice, of whatever you want to eat. Matzah, you want to eat, bread and bitter herbs, and during the duration of 8 or 7 days, we're gonna. It's a big celebration in Israel right now, and can you imagine that Gentile people converted to Judaism and they're celebrating, and many of them are enjoying it more than we do, okay? Because sometimes we don't have the money to do a lot of the stuff that they do, right? But whatever way we can celebrate it, we're celebrating our emancipation, from slavery, all right? And remember that leaven is strictly avoided. So Nisan, which is usually it falls usually on what do we say, between March or April, and because sometimes it's in March, sometimes it's in April, and the holiday commemorates. As we look at it, my brother and sister, we cannot forget our liberation. We cannot forget our liberation from Egypt. And so all of this is done, is celebrated with great pomp. I'm saying during this festivity, during this time. All right. So the 8th day, the Hebrew Israelite people, the Passover, is celebrated. All right. The early spring, remember, sometime, remember it was from the 15th through the 22nd of the Hebrew month of Nisan. Some people say Nisan, some people say Nisan. Sometimes it's spelled Nisan, sometimes it's spelled Nisan. Okay, and it's April 22nd through 30 this year. We're celebrating it. So every year, we have a different time, and sometimes people try to put it with what they call it along with the Easter. Sometimes it falls along the same time when Christians celebrate Easter and so on. But in Hebrew, this is known as Pesach. Okay, Pesach, and it means to pass over. That's what it really means, because YAHUAH or Elohim, at the time, he was not known as YAHUAH, he was known as Elohim, right? He passed over the Hebrew Israelite, homes, when he was killing the Egyptian, okay? And the firstborn of the Egyptian, everything in firstborn died, on that Passover Eve. Okay, so, based on the scripture, as it's told in the Bible, right? After many decades of slavery in Egypt, Pharaoh, during which time the Hebrew Israelites were subjected to back-breaking labors. I mean, it was rough, it was not easy. They said, I was illustrating to some young people today how the people have to take the basket and go down to the river to catch water. You know a basket? Basket is made out of, different kind of wood, weeds, whist, bamboo, and it's platted in, And you know, a lot of churches use basket for offering, picking up offering. Remember, brothers and sisters, you put that in the water and you fill it up, and by the time you make a step, everything is gone. You keep going back. You know, you keep going back. I mean, it was not easy. And it was at this time that YAHUAH spoke to Moshe. Moshe, remember, he was born in Egypt, you know, from the tribe of Levi. And you remember how they were killing the babies and he was hidden. And then arranged so that Pharaoh's daughter could adopt him. And so his mother raised him until he was at a certain age. She was his own mother was a nurse to him. And one day he walked in the among the slaves, his own people, and he saw how the Egyptian taskmaster was treating them, and he got into a fight with one of them, and he beat one of them up, and he died. So he have to run away because he got to Pharaoh's hearing, and Pharaoh, even though it was his, you know, what referred to as his his adopted grandfather, he was after him. He had to run and leave. So he went to traveled to Midian. I mean, you know, and then he got into the backside there of the desert. There, he met some ladies taking care of their father's cattle, sheep and goat or whatever, and livestock. Helped them fought off some robbers. Daughters went home talking to the father about what happened. Father said, then where is the young man that helped you? And said, let him there. Said, go get him. So he came in, and you know, after, you know, he became Jethro's son-in-law, marrying to Zipporah. My brother and sister, I want you to know this Jethro they talk about. Sometimes they refer to him as a heathen person. He was not a heathen, he was a priest. He was a godly man. Okay? He knew about God. He knew about YAHUAH. You know, at first it was Elohim, the Most High. He was called then. I was referred to then. He knew he was not an heathen. And he was one of the descendants of Midian. You remember Zipporah? I mean, you remember Abraham married to a woman after Sarah's death, right? And this woman was from Midian. She was a Midianite. And she went back there and her children, you know. If you hear they talk about Kuwait is modern day Kuwait. It's Midian. That's the land. And my brothers and my sisters, he stayed there for a long time, over 40 years, until one day he was in the backside of the desert when YAHUAH called him to go back down to Egypt, to lead his children out of Egypt. You remember the story? When he heard the voice, he wanted to know who was talking to him. When the voice said, take his shoes off your feet, because the place where you're standing is holy. YAHUAH consecrated that place, that ground. And he did. And he wanted to know, who are you talking to me? He said, I am the I am. And he said, I want to go to Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. He said, when I go down to Egypt and to talk to Pharaoh, Pharaoh going to want to know who sent me. What is his name? Tell him that I am the self-existing one. He said, tell him that I am the Elohim of Abram or Avram, of Isaac, which we call Isaac, of Jacob. Tell him that I sent you. You know the story. How Moshe went back to Egypt. And we don't know if it is the same father-in-law that he left there. Because we know that different Pharaoh of the Hitchcock people, they were not the Hamitic people. By the time Moshe was born, it was not the Hamitic people, they were not the children of Mizraim leading. It was outsiders, foreigners that came in there that was leading. And became their Pharaoh at that time. My brother and my sister, they did not recognize the Hebrew people. I'm enough they say, he didn't recognize Joseph. I mean, who is he? I don't care about who he is. And my brothers and my sisters, we know the story of how Moshe went back and forth, talking to him, and YAHUAH have to come up with a different kind of plagues, flies, frogs, grasshoppers, water turned into blood, all kind of things. Both, I think, 7 different plagues he came up with. And my brother and my sister, he still would not let the people go. And every time he said he's going to do it, when the plague and different things came upon him, as soon as the plague gone, he changed his mind. This time, YAHUAH said, okay, Moshe, since he won't let my people go that they could go and serve me, I am going to kill the firstborn of Egypt. Every firstborn, from human being to animal. And my brother and my sister, he said, YAHUAH told him, you go and you get this animal. And I want to kill this animal. And put the blood all over. So they get these animals, right? And the sheep. And they kept them for a couple of days to make sure that they're clean. Clean, and they kill it and they put it blood over the den, over the doors. They said, when I see the blood, and that night, my brothers and my sisters, death passed through. And they were wailing and mourning in Egypt because the firstborn of every family, from Pharaoh down, men and beasts, died. Pharaoh was unhappy with this. He wanted to say, go, let them go, let them go, let them go. But you know, that night, my brothers and my sisters, when they were getting out, they have to roast the meat. They could not put yeast or leaven in the flour and the wheat because they didn't have enough time for all of that. They're going out in a hurry. And they get a quick meal. And after they finish that meal, they have to go. And so, YAHUAH let them out of Egypt. And they were taking them to Canaan land, the promised land. And my brothers and my sisters, when they got to the Red Sea, how are we going to cross over? And they cried out to YAHUAH. And YAHUAH said to Moshe, what is that in your hand? He said, the same rod that you use to make snake and scare off Pharaoh and eat up all those other snakes that's the same rod in your hand. I want you to stretch across. Stretch that rod across. That shepherd rod. And guess what? The water parted. And the people went through. All those people were faithful, crying out. Pharaoh, and they looked behind them, they saw Pharaoh and his army. YAHUAH parted that day, my brothers and sisters. Parted the water. People passed through without being hurt. And as soon as they were about to get over, it started closing the water. By this time, Pharaoh's army they were in the water. And all those who were in the water, my brothers and sisters, died. They never survived. Let me ask you a question. Which Elohim could have done that? None. Remember that our Elohim, he was our Elohim alone. There's some people, like the people in Midian and Jethro, that trusted him because they know him through Abraham, the father. Even though they were not of the promised seed, they know him because Abraham taught his children about YAHUAH. In that side, even Ishmael, he taught Ishmael about YAHUAH. But Jacob, through Isaac was of the promised son. And he taught his children. And Jacob taught his children. And those who went on into Egypt, my brother and my sister, they know him, but they don't know him personally like we do today. Praise be to his holy name. What a blessing that we have. That we know him as Elohim. We know him as El. We know him as Elah. We know him as El Shaddai, Adonai. We know him many, many, many names. We know him as YAHUAH. My brothers and my sisters, it's a blessing to know him. And today we have more privilege to his word because of the fact that we have been redeemed. We have been purchased with the blood of YAHUAH. Praise his holy name, my brothers and my sisters. And so we know that YAHUAH pass over us. Or that death, that is saying, it passed over us. YAHUAH came. So let me say then, at the stroke at midnight, and Nisan, so you want to pronounce the name, 15, in the year 2448. In the year 2448, from the day of creation, which was right around 1313 BCE, before the Common Era. YAHUAH, or Elohim, he visited the last of the 10 plagues, my brothers and sisters, on Egypt, killing all the firstborn. Yes, and while doing so, he spared our ancestors, passing over their homes. Hence, we have this day, the name of the holiday. Okay, we have this day, which we call Passover. Pharaoh's resistance was broken. And virtually, my brothers and sisters, he chased his former slaves out of the land. He said, go. So the Israelites left in such a hurry. In fact, my brothers and sisters, the bread that we bake as a provision for the way did not have time to rise. Over 600,000 adults, plus many more women and children. Some people believe it was about 4 million. You know, this is just an estimate that they give there, that left. Many more women and children, they left Egypt that day. And they began the journey to Mount Sinai. And the birth as YAHUAH's children, his chosen children, his chosen people. My brothers and sisters, so we see then that in ancient time, Passover observance includes sacrifices of, like what we refer to as the pascal lamb, you know, which is roasted and eaten and at the cedar meal, you know, and that is always happening like on the first night of the Passover, at the holiday. And then, you know, this wasn't the case, like, you know, until the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed and, you know, right around the 1st century. So they practiced up until that time. We know that when they left and they went, you know, when they went to into captivity, I'm not sure how long, how many, if they practiced it there, but they were supposed to do it, you know. And so we know that Passover is divided into what we refer to as, you know, the first 2 days, you know, and the last 2 days are the latter, commemorating, you know, the splitting of the Red Sea, are full, you know, this is what the word for a full-fledged holiday. Well, my brothers and sisters, like I said, those people in those days, they were able to take over because many of them were just farmers. So, and many of them own their own land and have their own business. They were able to take over and do things, but, you know, and enjoy it to the full. But those of us today, some who have to work, you know, have jobs that you can't get the time off, like I said a little earlier in the beginning of the session, you know, we don't work in if we're able to, don't work. Okay, some people are greedy, and they even though they could get the time off, they still work. You know, they still work. So, but you know, praise be to YAHUAH. We are, you know, permitted to cook our meal and to carry out, you know, outdoors, and, you know, we can eat, we can celebrate, we can call people, our friends, you know, to commemorate, you know, unleavened bread with us. You know, we can do that. You know, if we're not selfish, we'll do it. You know, we eat and left, just like they did, eat and left Egypt. You, like when you do this, the Passover, you can't eat and left anything over. Everything you cook that day have to be done. You have to finish completely. You can't leave over. You know, you can't left anything over and say, oh, I'm going to eat it tomorrow. You know, we don't do that. We can't leave. Okay, you can't leave no food. So we eat it all. So we cook enough, and we're able to give away as much as we can. So sometimes the meal would include bread, cakes, cookies, cereal, pasta, most alcohol beverages. Some people, you stay away from, anything gonna make you jump, because remember, children are involved. And so we cannot, but we stay away from, any processed food or drink, that we consume. We have to stay away from all of that, unless, it is certified that it is clean and it is good. All right? So this is basically, some of the things that happen during Passover time, and we thank Yahuwah that He gives us the opportunity that, we can celebrate and remember this holiday. So my brothers and my sisters, I'm going to say to you that be a blessing to someone during this Passover season, the Feast of Unleavened Bread season. Just be a blessing to someone and walk with the King. Shalom.